Hello everyone, you're watching Can You See Fish? Welcome back to another episode of Thomas and Friends Rank. This time we're going to be doing Series 5 of the show. And this is going to be I'm going to have some controversial opinions in this one, I feel like. Some of these episodes I do have fairly different opinions to what the consensus is with the rest of the fandom. But yeah, this is all just personal, so if I'm really hating on an episode that you like, or saying that an episode that you despise is really good, although not a lot of these episodes are despised, which is probably why my opinions are different, but yeah, here we go. Cranky Bugs. It's great. It's one of the best openers to a series, probably other than Grandpuff and Sleeping Beauty, the openers to Series 4. This is probably the best series opener that Thomas ever had. Really good, nice introduction to Cranky. The visuals in this one are very good. Quite an intense story towards the middle. It starts out and it's quite, kind of just regular hijinks on Sodor, and then it kind of changes in mood and tone right in the middle of the episode, which is really interesting. Really an exciting episode. Highly recommend it. Horrid Lorry up next, one of my favourites. I've made a whole video talking about this. I think the Horrid Lorries are probably the best one-off villain Thomas ever had. They are written so well, and they have a real threat posing to the railway, even though they are smaller than the engines. They're sort of like these little nagging mice in a way, but yeah, they're great. A Better View for Gordon. First one I'm struggling on. I'm probably gonna say that I don't really care for it. This one's a very much style over substance episode. I mean, there's another one on here that I feel the same too. The crash. Great. Absolutely great. One of the best of the show, no doubt. Very realistic. There's none of but no, luckily no one was hurt. You see the injuries that Gordon's driver fireman and the Fat Controller suffer. It's very good. Leading up to that point, it's not so good. It's a very boring story in my opinion. Not a lot happens. It's just more of Gordon acts a bit like an ass, then he gets his comeuppance. By Series 5 of the show, we'd got plenty of them. We'd had Tenders and Turntables in Series 1 and Off the Rails in Series 1. Series 2 had Rung Road. Series 3 had Gordon and the Famous Visitor. I don't think Series 4 had one, if memory serves. But yeah, then Series 5. There's another one in this Series 2 that's focused around Gordon acting like an ass. There were just too many of them. And yeah, the crash is great, but leading up to that, it's not. Lady Hat's Birthday Party, it's another good one for me. I do enjoy it. This was the first episode that featured a human as a central character. It's nice to see Caroline come back for the final time that she'd ever have a real role in an episode where she wasn't just a cameo. And yeah, it's quite interesting. The visuals are once again good. We don't see much of the railway in this one, which is just fine, which kind of means we get to see some different sets that aren't really seen ever again. But yeah, there we go. James and the Trouble with Trees is okay. The visuals in this one definitely kind of put it above something like Better View for Gordon. The storm visuals are great. When the tree slips onto the track and then falls towards James, it's a very intense scene. Leading up to that, we have a bit more of, similarly to Better View for Gordon, James acting like an idiot. But I do feel like there's kind of more of this episode that's good than in the case of Better View for Gordon. The storm scene is a lot longer than the crash scene. Gordon and the Gremlin. I'm really going to upset a lot of people if I put this above A Better View for Gordon. Oh, should I do it? I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Gordon and the Gremlin is a better episode than A Better View for Gordon. It's still not one that I particularly like. It's just kind of this mediocre episode. It definitely feels like they had two story ideas here. There was one about Gordon and Sir Topham Hatt's mother, and one about Thomas and the dog. And they kind of just merged them together. The stuff with Gordon is really good. The stuff with Thomas and the dog isn't so good. But yeah, it's a fine episode. It's not one that I find myself going back to all too much. So yeah. By George is up next. And this is it could be a favourite actually. I'm going to say it's great for the time being. This one might move. There are two crashes in this one, both of which are really good. Thomas's is great. The one with Gordon thundering past and smashing the truck to pieces is great. It's nice to see George come back. I wish that he had got an episode in Series 6 where we could have seen if he'd changed or not. But judging from the fact that he's more than happy to help the engines out in Calling All Engines, I think we can assume that, yeah, he did change after this episode. Yeah, just a fantastic episode. George is such a good villain, and I do think that they really missed out only using him prominently in, like 3 episodes. So, yeah, great episode. Bar. This one is so boring. This one might even be bad. No, it's really boring, though. It's kind of like, it feels wrong me saying this because this was one of the first ever Thomas episodes I watched, and I can remember watching it for the first time, and I think I did really used to like it, but it's really dull. The visuals are nice, but they're not great. There's nothing standing out about them. When you have a series this cinematic with a lot of great visuals, something that's just nice, it kind of falls into obscurity. Bar is one of the least talked about Thomas episodes I think that there is. You really don't hear this one being talked about too much, and I think that's probably with a good reason. It's a fine episode for what it is, but it's not one that I'm going to put the Series 5 DVD in the player for just to watch it. It's just not going to happen. Put Upon Percy is okay. Similarly to A Better View for Gordon, it's kind of more style over substance in my opinion, but the scene of the mine collapsing and the landslide and Percy hiding under the canvas barrier is really, really strong. It's a fantastic scene. Yeah, but the rest of it's just kind of okay. I am going to put it above James and the Trouble with Trees, actually. Toby and the Flood. What an episode. I don't have a problem with stuff being unrealistic in Thomas as long as the episode's good. I don't like episodes like Thomas and the Jet Engine because not only is it unrealistic, but it's also boring, like really boring. Woo, an engine goes fast, but I'm going to be talking about that in the Series 6 ranking video, so I'll leave my thoughts of that for now. But yeah, Toby and the Flood, what an episode. So good. The music, the visuals. This is perhaps the best visuals a Thomas episode has, just ever. The dam collapsing, the bridge breaking away, Toby nearly going over the waterfall, the panic, Harold like flying through the air and dropping the rope. This is such a great episode. Possibly the best music for any episode in the series. It does contend with Flying Kipper with that though. But yeah, fantastic. Haunted Henry, it's a great one. The atmosphere is fantastic. I do feel like Stephanie Gets Lost is the more kind of disturbing episode of the two. But in terms of creepy episodes, nothing really gets creepier than this. There are a couple of other contenders in this series, but yeah, I don't think anything gets straight up as scary and panicked and extreme as Haunted Henry. It's one of the episodes that I feel like I'm surprised that nothing had to be done to make this more child-friendly. Double Teething Trouble's up next. It's another great one. I'm going to put it there. This is probably my favourite Bill and Ben episode of the show. It does kind of contend with the Diesel for that, but yeah, this is a fantastic episode. The last time we saw Boko in a major role, obviously he did have barely a cameo in Stephanie Gets Lost, but yeah, last time we kind of see Boko. Derek's a cool character. I wish we'd seen him again. I do actually really like Derek. He's sort of like this. He's an incredibly nice Diesel, but unlike Boko, he does have this major flaw to him. So I wish he had appeared again outside of that cameo in the Calling All Engines. I think it's called Doing Things Better song or whatever. But yeah. It goes there. The twins are in character in it. They're not overly annoying in this one, at least not in the UK dub. I can't stand Alec Baldwin's voice to them. I know some people like it. I know some people sound like that he kind of sounds a bit squeaky with it. I cannot stand his voices for Bill and Ben. I'm actually glad he didn't bring them back for Series 6, even though the episode that they got in that series was crap anyway. But yeah, there we go. Double Teething Troubles. Stephanie Gets Lost. It's another favourite of mine. Is it better than Toby and the Flood? No, I'm going to say no. Fantastic. It changes so quickly, the atmosphere. I talked about the change in Cranky Bugs. The stark change in this one is so drastic. The episode starts at like the beginning of the day with dawn and Stepney in his shed. He goes to the quarry. It's kind of just the normal standard stuff. He leaves the quarry, does the job, and then the entire episode just turns on its head, and it becomes this creepy kind of thriller style episode with Harry and Bert being threatening, and I think probably the most threatening characters that Thomas ever had, more so than Diesel 10 in Magic Railroad, more so than, just any of the other Diesels, or even like Spencer or someone. Harry and Bert in this episode are easily the scariest Thomas characters and are the most threatening. Such a good episode. Toby's discovery, it's probably here. The nighttime scene, once again, similarly to Haunted Henry, very creepy. Quite a few creepier episodes this time around. There's this one, Haunted Henry, Stepney Gets Lost, and also Duncan Gets Spooked. But yeah, quite a few creepy episodes. This one, because of how Toby's theme is written, the do 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 do, when that's kind of slowed down and done in the music box style at night, it's got this really creepy nursery rhyme style vibe to it. So much so that I actually originally thought when watching the episode that it was Ring a Ring of Roses, but it's not. It's Toby's theme, which is just so amazing to think that it could be that creepy just from changing the instrumentation and the tempo slightly. But yeah, I wish we'd seen Bertram again. I wish he'd been given some actual character. I wish we were told what he had done to make him the Old Warrior. But, I mean, fans have kind of theorised as to what that is. But I wish we had got an actual answer to it. But yeah, just another good episode. Something in the Air. It's okay, I guess. Nighttime visuals are great, and it's kind of another Flying Kipper episode. Obviously, the Series 1 Flying Kipper, one of the best episodes of the show. The best episode of that series, without a doubt. Series 4's Flying Kipper episode was Fish, another fantastic one with a great crash. This one just kind of falls into obscurity underneath those two, I feel like. The crash is cool. Seeing an engine get fully submerged in the water is really, really cool. But other than that, it's just kind of an episode, and I don't really get why Thomas and Henry are so aggressive towards each other in this episode. I feel like by this point Henry had matured slightly. This feels very much like Series 1 Henry, just following Gordon and James in terms of personality. When he was on his own, he didn't act like that. So I don't really get why he's acting like it in this. I actually kind of prefer the more friendly side of Henry to the ass one, the one who's aggressive and hates everyone and the cynical guy. But yeah, Something in the Air. Thomas, Percy and Old Slowcoach. It's here. It's just okay. I can't really say much about it. The fire scenes are cool. Old Slowcoach, at least she appeared after this episode, not like Bertram or Derek. But other than that, it's just okay. Thomas and the Rumours is bad. I do not care. It makes very little sense to me. I haven't seen the episode in a while, but from what I remember, it's got something to do with the engines thinking that Harold's going to replace them because they see him flying around somewhere. It's stupid. Harold's been on the island for, 4 series by this point, and because they see him flying, they think that he's going to replace them, and then it's like, oh, he's counting sheep. Why would he be counting sheep? You see him buzzing near a sheep field. Why would he be counting sheep? This is one of the episodes that actually, infuriates me, because when you have a series with episodes as good as Toby and the Flood, or Toby's Discovery, or Haunted Henry, Stepney Gets Lost, these fantastically written episodes with amazing visuals and, a gorgeous atmosphere which immerses you, it's episodes like this that make me think, how can people say that the downfall of Thomas started at Series 6 when we were getting episodes as bad as Thomas and the Rumours a series before? And you know what the worst thing is? I don't even think this is the worst episode of this series, so we'll get to that. Oh, we will get to that one. Oliver's Finds up next. I prefer it to Haunted Henry. Atmosphere's great. I'm saying that a lot in this video. Atmosphere's great, but all of the nighttime scenes in Series 5 are amazing, and they're all played off to add a kind of a threatening aura around them. It's really good. It's nice to see Oliver in a main role, because after Toad Stands By, there was probably some doubt whether he would really appear again. Obviously, that was the end of his arc. He overcame the trucks. He never worked with trucks again, except when he's seen doing it at the start of this episode, and the trucks are being nasty to him, which kind of just makes Toad Stands By, completely pointless. But yeah, other than that, it's a fantastic episode with a great crash, and it does kind of play into the whole Toby's branch line being reopened too, which is nice. Happy Ever After is one that I can't say I really care for. It's better than Bar, but it's once again quite nonsensical. Nowhere near as bad as Thomas and the Rooms. In fact, I'm surprised not more people criticise that. But yeah, this one's quite nonsensical, but it's nice, it's wholesome, it has a really nice and happy ending, and just thinking about it sort of makes me happy. It makes me want to maybe move it up, but I think I am going to have to leave it there. So Topham Hatt's Holiday is... I don't know. I'm going to say it's okay. It's better than Something in the Air. The stuff with Lady Hat and Annie and Clarabelle I find quite tiresome. Like, why do they don't look like beach huts? They should have done more to make them look like older and more run down. Maybe have given them a couple of cracked windows. Made it so maybe the roofs were kind of sloping where they shouldn't have been, or given them more scratches or something. They don't look that dirty, but other than that, the water visuals for when they're floating on the river, absolutely fantastic. Can't fault it. But yeah, outside of that, it's just a fine episode. A Surprise for Percy is another bad one for me. I get that the idea is that Percy feels like his life is boring, and up until the actual runaway scene, the episode is sort of showing the mundaneness. But is that really a good idea for a show that's primarily aimed at children to make an episode that's meant to be boring? It just comes across as boring. There's nothing interesting about it. You get and the runaway scene, it's not even that good. There's a scene of the trucks running through the town past Bertie, and that's it. They run up the hill and they're stopped. That was the surprise. That's the whole episode. The point of the episode was that scene, and they didn't even do that right. It's just bad. It's just bad. And as you get into the later part of the series, there are a couple of just sprinkled throughout just bad episodes for me. Make Someone Happy is crap. It's not just the worst episode of this series. It's one of the worst of the classic era. It's so boring. I hated it as a kid. I still hate it now. There's like no good scenes in it. James spotted his friend Mrs. Kindly. They've never been seen together before. How are they friends? You could have done more to explain why James would even care about Mrs. Kindly when he doesn't care about anyone but himself. It feels like such a bizarre character choice. If they had done this with I don't know, either Percy, Henry, or even maybe given Edward an episode in this series, this feels like it was written for Edward. I feel like I would have liked it more if it was written for Edward. But yeah, just so dull. Busy Going Backwards is... Oh, it's not as good as Toby and the Flood, I gotta say. It's not as good as Toby and the Flood. It's an exciting... It's just a straight-up action episode. There's barely any story there. It's... Toad wants to go forwards. Then there's the scene of the breakaway. The rest of the episode is just devoted to showing the chaos that Toad causes. It's fantastic. Easily, for me, one of the best episodes of this show. If you're going to do an action episode of Thomas, this is how you do it. Don't bother spending ages, like half of the episode, setting it up. You just get on with it. You don't spend ages focusing on story. You just get to the action part, and that's what makes it so good. Yeah, Busy Going Backwards. Such a great episode. Duncan Gets Spooked is probably the best creepy episode. This is Always Remembered, and this one's I feel like I've kind of been desensitized to it because of how much this one does get talked about as being the scariest Thomas episode. It would be a lot creepier if I didn't see people constantly talking about it, but it does earn that spot as being it. Obviously, there's the famous scene of the engine falling off the bridge and basically dying and drowning, and its crew dying as well, and that is probably the darkest Thomas ever got. But yeah, other than that scene, the episode is still good. The atmosphere at night is fantastic. I don't think it's as good as Stephanie Gets Lost, actually. I've just changed my mind. The scene on the bridge is okay, and there is kind of that supernatural presence still there, even though it is meant to be the driver's plan. So yeah, great episode. Rusty and the Boulder up next. Another good one. I'm going to put it here. If you're one of the people who I can overlook the unrealism. If you overlook the realism, then this is a fantastic story. It has great visuals. I think that the idea of Rhaenyra and Scarlowe being these kind of brave engines, but even they are scared of this boulder that's coming towards them. It gives it that even more kind of intensity and threat. The scene at the end with the shed exploding, I don't know why it explodes, but it's still fantastic. The atmosphere leading up to it is very chilling. There's the music and it's grey and you see the face on the boulder. It's a great episode. It should be. I know on some of the DVDs they put this as the last episode of Series 5, and I think that it should be, because Snow is nowhere near as good an episode as it. I'm going to probably put it here. I mean, I don't get why they needed this to be the episode. This feels like it was written because they had to have a third narrow gauge episode, and they were like, I'll just write an episode about Scarlowe in the winter. It's the scene of the trucks breaking away from the incline, very good. We had seen it before in the previous series, and we would see it again in the next series, so it just feels kind of like it's now just being repeated. The avalanche scene's good. There's too much Thomas, in my opinion. If they wanted to make this episode, they should have made it a straight up narrow gauge episode. Takes place on the Scarlowe Railway. It doesn't need to have Thomas at the start being rude to Percy for some reason, because we have to have one of those scenes. It doesn't need Thomas getting stuck and saying how much he hates Snow. We know, we watched the show. It doesn't need Rusty to tell him the story. The story should just have happened naturally. Gordon's scene at the end is funny, so I'll give them that. But yeah, that's Snow. And that is my ranking of Thomas and Friends Series 5. This has been a more negative video than what I normally do. I know that. Series 5 to me is quite overrated because it does have some of the best stories in the show. All of the stuff in these first two categories are standouts from the entire series and are some of the fondest memories that I have are watching these episodes. But people forget about the mediocrity of the series because of how good these are. Of the episodes that are here, the only one that I generally ever see getting any negative attention is Gordon and the Gremlin, which, as you can tell, I don't even think is the worst. So yeah, ranking from worst to best. Make Someone Happy, Thomas and the Rumours, A Surprise for Percy, Bar, Happy Ever After, A Better View for Gordon, Gordon and the Gremlin, Thomas, Percy and Old Slow Coach, James and the Trouble with Trees, Put Upon Percy, Snow, Something in the Air, Topham Hatt's Holiday, Lady Hatt's Birthday Party, Double Teething Troubles, Cranky Bugs, By George, Toby's Discovery, Haunted Henry, Oliver's Find, Horrid Laurie, Duncan Gets Spooked, Stephanie Gets Lost, Rusty and the Boulder, Busy Going Backwards, and Toby and the Flood. I'm going to thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you have so you don't miss when I upload next. Next one's going to be Series 6, the next ranking video. I hope you've all enjoyed watching. Like and subscribe if you have. See you next time. Goodbye.